Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at using this array that we built, just understanding the basic structure of the array. We'll get into more about arrays later and other data structures, but we just wanted to build a simple multi-item data structure that we can loop through. We want to use these loops intelligently. So we're going to build a for loop that will read each element in shape array here. So each string, circle, square, triangle, we want to read each element in this shape array, each string. And the way we do that, we build our basic for loop. We're going to initialize our index with the standard variable I, and we're going to start it out at 0 because arrays do 0-based indexing. So we're going to start at 0, and then we want to tell our for loop how many times we run the same process over and over again. That's what a for loop is going to do here. We're going to run the same task I less than some integer number of times. So that's how many times we're going to run our loop. We want to run our loop the size of this array, and the way we get the size of that array is with this dot length property of shape array. We can pull the total number of elements in the array here, in which case this is 3. So as long as I is less than 3, we will be running this loop. And then we want to increment I once the loop is finished. So here we've initialized an indexer. I've called it I. We've initialized it. We've created this integer. And we are saying run this loop for as long as this integer is less than the total number of items inside of this array. And then we raise the number of I by 1 every time we finish the loop. So that's the basic structure of our for loop here. And I want to do a very simple repeat of what the previous video showed, which was let's populate this list box with these items. Because when we click add, we remove all the items, which I'll show really quick here. Add will just remove all the items. And then we want this for loop to bring them back. Just as an example to explore how to use this for loop. So the way we do that, we are going to use this same starting structure, the name of the list box, and then we go to the items. What is this? Property, items, this object collection, and we want to add to that list. So we're adding to this list here. And what are we adding? We want to add shape array. And then we want to index based off of I here. So I will tell us where we are within our array here, whether we're on the first element, the second element, or the third element. And remember, we're using 0-based indexing. So 0 is going to be the first element, And then when we increment, we do I plus plus. I becomes 1, which would be square, which is the second element. And then the third element is when I is equal to 2. So the for loop will run 3 times. I equals 0, I equals 1, I equals 2. And then it will add those values to our list box. Pretty simple and straightforward. So let's run the code. As we saw earlier, when I clicked the add button, it cleared the list box. Now we should see the add button do nothing because it's clearing and adding to it. But let's just clear and then click add. And then we see our list box items being added here. Let's run a debugger and explore the variables in live time. So we have our shape array. Currently it's null, which is what you would expect until we define it. Let's step over, step into, they'll do the same thing here. Okay, now our shape array has values. We see that the 0 based index is circle, the 1 based index is square, the 2 based index is triangle. So this is our shape array, and the way we read each of, if we wanted to read circle, we would do the square brackets with the 0, just like you see here. That would pull the value circle out. Square would be 1, triangle would be 2. Let's walk through the code. So the first thing, we're on our for loop here. The first thing it did is it runs this statement immediately, and it only runs this statement once. Our for loop is only going to run this statement once, and then it never looks at that again. Now it's assessing this if statement here, saying is I less than shape array length. So you can mouse over to see the values. It sees that I is 0, and it sees that shape array length is 3. So is 0 less than 3? That is true. So we will run our loop. And now we're going to add the first element. I is 0. As we saw earlier, I is 0. Shape array is looking for the 0th element. So right now it's adding circle. Now we increment. We are incrementing I. So I should be 1 now. I is 1. Now it's going to assess another if loop. Remember, we don't run this first part again. Now we're just running this highlighted yellow part. I is going to be compared to shape array length. So that value is static. It doesn't change. It's 3. I is changing. So that's what we're assessing here. We are running this condition. Now it's 1 less than 3. That is true. So we're going to run the loop again. And it's going to keep running till we reach a false condition. So let's look at this. I is 1. When shape array is 1, square is the value. So now we are adding square to the list box. And this is also visible if I went through the list box here. You can see the count is 2. I would be able to find the values updating, but that might take a little time. I'd prefer to keep moving forward with the for loop. So now we're going to increment I to be 2. 2 is less than 3, so we're going to run the loop because it's true. Now we are adding shape array where I is equal to 2, and that is triangle here. So now it's added triangle to the system, to the list box, excuse me. And I wanted to show earlier that the count of This list box should be 3 now. Might have to look under items. There we go. Under items is 3. So now we have all 3 items in our list box. We are incrementing. So now I is 3. Is 3 less than 3? No. This is the first time this condition has been false. So that's going to break the loop. And the loop will end. The for loop ends. And then our program finishes. And that's a very simple way of running through a for loop with a shape array, so a string array. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.